Hello everyone, this is Robyn. Welcome to mypinkstamper.com. I hope you're having a wonderful day. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to spend it with me. I have a wonderful tutorial for you today. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. That's the word of the day. This one's going to be super fun. I'm doing a lot of heat embossing. So if you like heat embossing, you're going to love this. I'm doing a really fun background technique that's featuring heat embossing, but it's just really fun because it's very subtle and it's just really gorgeous. So we'll go ahead and jump right in and get started. If you're new to my channel, give me a comment below and let me know what you think if you're first time visiting me. And also, if you would like to recreate this card with me, I'll have a list of all the supplies below as well as on the screen for you. And this card, it features 3 different stamp sets, and I'm using a couple different dies. So I'll just make sure that I write it on the screen for you if you want to keep track of it. Or you can use what you have in your craft space and make something similar if you're inspired by the color choices or the layout. This is just going to be a really super fun card. Okay, I'll go ahead and jump right in and get started. We're going to be stamping and embossing. So we're going to do that first. I'm going to show you 2 different ways that you can well, there's more, but 2 different ways that you can use ink to emboss. So the very first one, actually we're going to be embossing on 3 different pieces of cardstock. So I'll start with this one right here. We are going to be using the record from For the Record stamp set, and we're also using Happy Birthday. So those are the only 2 from this stamp set. And I'm going to be using our Tuxedo Black Memento and also clear embossing powder. I'm using clear for all of the 3 different ways we're going to heat emboss. Let me get this is my small grid paper. I use it like every time. I sounded like a Valley girl for a second. Every time I craft, I use it. I am going to go ahead, and if you're super quick and you have a nice and juicy ink pad, you can do this without using a special VERSAMARK, which we're going to be using in a little bit for a different part of the card. But my Memento is nice and inked up. I get an ink refill for all of my ink pads, and that way if they start to get a little dry, I just give them a little bit of a refresh. And you can also do that with the Memento. So I'm stamping this on our basic white cardstock, and I'm going to be using clear embossing powder that's from our basics collection. So I'm just going to leave this upside down and go ahead and just ink it up really good. I want to make sure it's nice and inked up, nice and inky. I'm going to stamp it on here. Ooh, oh, it's fine. Do you see how it moved? I'm like, oh, I'm so scared. And then I'm just going to put our clear embossing powder on it. Tap it off. And now I'll use our heat tool. And this is the coolest. This is probably the neatest one because you can just really see the transformation when it changed. And let me turn this off. My goal was for this to look like a vinyl record. And I grew up with vinyl records. I'm sure a lot of you did as well. They were nice and shiny and black. So you can go from the top. You can use the heat. I'm using the heat tool. You can use it from the top or you can use it from the bottom. You can swirl it around if that makes you happy. You don't really have to. Maybe you were taught that way. You do it however you'd like. Okay. You see how it's all shiny? Can you see the difference? I'll do the rest from the bottom so you can watch it change. Watch the transformation. Now, if I ever do heat emboss like this from the bottom, I always do just kind of a quick, I go over it quickly from the top just to make sure everything is melted. And as you can see, it's got a nice shiny texture to it. Looks like a vinyl record. Okay, open this, and we're going to stamp Happy Birthday. I don't know what I said I was going to stamp. And leave room because we're going to be cutting a die, using a die around that. All right. Now, while we don't need to use this again. I was going to say we were going to use it. We're not. Okay, I'm going to set this aside for just a second, put the lid on my black ink pad, And now I am going to be stamping a heart from Sweet Conversations. It's just a great heart set, and there's dies that coordinate with it that we're using as well. So I'm grabbing one of the hearts, and I'm going to be using the VERSAMARK ink pad. And I'm going to be stamping on MELON MAMBO cardstock. It's just a little scrap that I had. I'm feeling scrappy today, using lots of little scraps for my projects. I'm going to stamp that, and then I'm going to heat emboss that, and it's going to give it a darker color. You can see it if I do it underneath. See it change color and consistency, and then I'll just do it really quick on the top. All right, now I'll go ahead and grab this piece of basic white cardstock. This one is cut, and I actually I'm going to get a bigger piece of background paper for this one because I'm going to be embossing the whole background, and I just need one little scrap of paper for this one. Okay, so for this, I'm using the Stacked Stone stamp set right here. And this is a nice background stamp. I use this a lot. It's one of my favorites. And I'm going to go ahead and ink up this whole thing using the VERSAMARK that I just used. And then I have a piece of our basic white. This is cut at 3 3/4 by 5 inches. And I'll just have that one ready to go. I'm kind of making a mess over here today. All right, I'm going to ink this up. I just press until I can feel it absorb, it go in to my stamp. And now I'm going to take this piece of cardstock, and I like to put it on my backgrounds like this so it touches the center first. And then I just take a scrap of paper, and then I'm going to lift this off here very carefully. And I made a bunch of these. I think some of you guys are getting these in the mail. I think this was a batch of my thank you cards. I was thinking it was for a swap, but now that I'm thinking about it, I don't think it was. I think it was for customers that are amazing. Okay, so I'm just doing the whole background. All right. And I can set this aside for now. I'll clean it up later. And I'm going to use the heat tool again. You won't be able to see it very well. Okay, it's time to do our die cutting now. So I'll set this aside. All right, we're using 3 dies. We're going to start first with the layering circles, and that's going to go around this piece right here. Do a better view of my machine so you can see what I'm doing. I'm using layering circles just around that. I'm going to pull it out a little bit more. Okay. You can put washi down if you want to keep it in place. I just like push it down on there and hold my plate. And this one, it's okay if it's a little bit off. It's going to be on top of white cardstock anyway, and so it'll just blend in. But I have my record, my vinyl record. Look at that. It's so shiny and fun. Okay, now I'm going to take this piece here, and I'm going to use this die, and this is from Tasteful Labels, which is one of my favorite shapes collection. And I'm going to put it right here. Run this through. I wasn't doing a video and in a weird, awkward position behind my equipment, I probably would do all of these at one time, but I wanted to kind of show you guys them all individually. So I'm doing the heart now. All right. Run that through. Now I can move this over here. Fix my camera real quick. There we go. And now I'm going to make this a fun card. And this was, I love embossing. It's actually really, heat embossing is very therapeutic for me. I love using the heat tool and watching the crystals melt. Okay, now I'm going to make this a card. And I'm going to take this layer here that we embossed, and I'm going to add some of our, this is just Stampin' Seal. Use whatever adhesive you love to use. This is pretty new in our catalog, and I love it. And I'm adding it to basic black cardstock that's cut at 4 by 5 1/4 inches. And I'm going to add that on there. I love how it just makes it pop. And I'm adding that to our card base, which is our MELON MAMBO cardstock, and it's cut at 5 1/2 by 8 1/2 inches. I'll fold that over. Add adhesive to the back of my black piece of paper, our cardstock. It's not paper, it's cardstock. Paper is thin, that's how I think of that. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a dimensional, a Stampin' dimensional, and I'm going to add it to the back of the heart. I'm going to stick the heart on top of this heart like that. I'm going to turn this over, turn this piece over, and I'm going to add dimensionals to the back of these as well. And I'll add 4 to the back of my large circle, and I would do 3 on the back of this one. Okay, take off the backings. All right, and then we're going to add the record right here. And then this one stuck to my finger. I'm going to add the happy birthday down here. And then I like to add a little bit of embellishments to jazz up my projects. And I love our black matte dots. I use them a lot on a lot of projects. They're really versatile. And I'll use the large dots. And I'm going to put 2 down here. And then I'm going to flip it over. And I'm going to do 2 on the other side. Oh, I grabbed the wrong size. Let me grab the same size. Oops. And there is my project for today. I hope you like what you saw. If you did, give me a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any of my future video tutorials. If you're in the USA, you can order any of this product directly on my shopping page, shopmypinkstamper.com, and I will see you soon. Have a great day. Bye-bye.